Hey guys, here I'm John coming at you with a Diablo 4 video. This one's going to pertain to those people who are playing Diablo Immortal specifically, as you can see here on the screen, and also will kind of cater a little bit to those who are playing Diablo 3. What we're going to be talking about today is going to be, is Diablo 4 something that you should be playing with the beta coming out on Friday, as well as getting prepared and ready for when Diablo 4 actually launches in June. All right, so for some of you guys may be wondering where have I been, what have I been up to, and the simple fact of the matter is I have been getting ready for Diablo 4. So what we're gonna go ahead and talk about here is we're gonna go ahead and we're just gonna go play a little bit of Diablo Immortal while we talk about the beta of D3 and kind of just what to expect from the beta of it, right? Like, because we do know it's going to be a little differently than other games. Mainly when I say that, it's going to be different than Diablo Immortal, because the way Diablo Immortal is currently played, for example, I'm currently using my Azeron keypad, as you can see in the bottom right, and I'm using my actual joystick to go ahead and move around. This is going to be something that's going to be different versus on Diablo 4, and Diablo 3 users know this as well, where you cannot use WASD for controls. Unfortunately, you are locked into just keyboard and mouse, or pure controller for D4. D3 does not have that support, unfortunately. So for those of you who are trying to prepare and get ready for D4, it is a little unfortunate that you will have to use only a controller on Mortal or keyboard and mouse for D3, as you're not going to be able to practice for D4 with a controller. Now, moving on with topics of discussion. So basically, you can see here the mechanics of how I'm playing currently, right? Like you can see I'm playing a Demon Hunter. I've got pretty much 1 to 2 builds that are currently the highlight, so to speak, of the Demon Hunter. That's really about all they have. Now, there are some other skills that we could play with as a Demon Hunter to kind of maximize potential. There's obviously tons of combinations out there with legendary items, skills, and gear. There's not as much combination as there is in D3 or even D2 when we talk about that overall in general. But there is enough to keep you kind of invested with Diablo Immortal. Now, when we talk about Diablo 4 and the amount of actual playtime comparability like to Diablo Immortal, it's going to be a lot different. Now, Diablo 4 is going to be taking place right after D3, not actually anything to do with Diablo Immortal. And on top of that, a lot of the mechanics that you're going to see in Diablo 4 are going to be very, very similar to Diablo 3's. However, one notable thing is going to be crafting. Unlike crafting here in Diablo Immortal, which really, to be honest, there's not a whole lot of crafting to be had, you're going to actually be able to craft gears with suffixes and affixes within Diablo 4. Now, Diablo Immortal is a mobile game. They have dumbed down a lot of this. So for those of you wondering, is Diablo 4 going to be something that as a Diablo Immortal player that I'm going to want to play? The answer is if you really feel like there's something missing from Diablo Immortal, or maybe something is maybe just a little lackluster in your opinion, it is definitely worthwhile and advantageous to go ahead and get into Diablo 4 and play it, especially with the beta coming up. Now, for those of you who are curious on how you can play and get into Diablo 4 beta, it's pretty simple. Basically, you buy the game if you get the deluxe version or the ultimate version. That gives you access to the 2-day pre-beta before the open beta, or you go, if you're American, or if you're in the United States, sorry, not if you're American, but if you're in the United States, you go to a KFC, you buy you a double sandwich, costs you about $9 to $10. Go ahead and buy that sandwich, that guarantees you an access beta code key. There's also going to be a link down below to our website that has a full breakdown article on how to acquire that beta, right? But the real key takeaways here are, what should you be looking into if you are possibly considering going the route of playing Diablo 4 when it launches? Because it's not going to be for everybody. Not everybody is going to be liking the idea of going from this type of play style, the way this map is set up, the way the mechanics work, the way the controls work. Not everyone's going to be all about that. Not to mention, a lot of people skip bounties off completely. Like this bounty board here, as you can see here, we haven't logged in for several days, so it's all full. Bounties are very, very beneficial in 9 out of 10 Diablo games. And when I say 9 out of 10, literally, like, you talk to 9 out of 10 Diablo players, they're gonna say, hey, you need to go do your bounties. Then you talk to the Diablo Immortal players, and guess what? They're like, yeah, no, bounties are a waste of time. Well, moving forward into the next game, Diablo 4, it's going to be very imperative that you do your bounties because it's going to be very similar to D3 as far as the gear that's going to drop. Now, you're not going to have something like the bestiary in Diablo 4. That is something that's kind of more unique to Diablo 3. However, you're going to have a lot more other items and mechanics that are going to go on, right? Also, the maps are going to be much larger, and on top of that, so for example, let's go check out the ship, see if anyone's farming some ship right now. Notice the way we're teleporting and how everything's working. In Diablo 4, that's going to be in real time. There's not going to be any loading screens for saying loading the map like this. Like it's going to be instantaneous as soon as you go from one section of the map to the next section of the map. They've done this to kind of eliminate and add a little bit more diversity, so to speak, in the actual Diablo franchise. It's the first time within the franchise that they're actually going to be eliminating the loading screen in general. So that is something very unique only to Diablo 4. I know, speaking from experience, sometimes it's nice when things just work and go fast, right? Like you don't really want to waste a whole lot of time. And that's definitely one of those things that you don't want to waste a crap load of time while you're playing or while you're waiting, so to speak, right? So I'm okay with it. I'm interested to see how well it works, see if it causes any bugs or any glitches. That's going to be one difference going from Diablo Immortal or Diablo 3 to Diablo 4, where loading screens are going to be a lot different. Ah, man. I just realized we're in Hell 7 here, and I just got to Hell 7. Oh, man. So this is rough. Yep, we're gonna have to go back to a lower hell level. That's fine. But anyways, that's also going to be something that's going to be a little different too, right? The Paragon system is going to be very different, and how you farm the gear is going to be very different. For those of you who are new to the franchise, let's say Diablo Immortal is your first entry level game into the Diablo franchise. One thing to take away is what you see and get used to on Diablo Immortal is not typical on all Diablo games. In fact, it's very atypical. A lot of the negativity that kind of came and got associated with the game, honestly, was with the simple fact that they've taken a lot of Diablo Immortal or Diablo aspects and kind of crammed them down and made them more basic to get them to fit into the Diablo Immortal platform for mobile players, right? So it's something to be very aware of. If you are someone who you absolutely love Diablo Immortal, you think it's it's the bee's knees, the game for you, that's awesome. By all means, keep playing it, and I hope you really enjoy it. Obviously, I'm not quitting Diablo Immortal. I'm trying to basically get ready for Diablo 4 and kind of be covering them both here and there as we go. Diablo 4 may possibly turn into my end-all be-all for content anyways, but for right now, we're going to try to play both and kind of transition appropriately. However, I just want everyone to be aware that there are going to be a lot of differences when we talk about Diablo Immortal versus Diablo 4. And if you're someone who really wants to get ready for these diverse things that are about to happen to us, you really should go download Diablo 3 and kind of start playing it, get a little bit of feel for it, because it's going to give you a good basis of where to go with the Diablo 4. Also, classes are going to be a lot different. So let's see here. If we go to the change class area, which is right here. Here we go. So we go over here to the change class area. Classes are going to be a lot different in Diablo 4 than they are in Diablo Immortal or even Diablo 3. I think this is going to be the biggest difference in the games themselves. And that's going to be because a lot of people have gotten used to certain play styles, right? Especially for those that are new to the Diablo franchise, because Diablo Immortal did an amazing job of really bringing everybody in and really allowing everybody to play as a team on the different classes, right? In Diablo Immortal. But for those of you who are very curious, what classes are going to be available in D4? Well, right now you have it where you can see Barbarian, you have a Wizard, you have Demon Hunter, which is what I am. You have Monk, Crusader, and Necromancer, right? So when we talk about D4, what you're going to have is you're going to have the Necromancer. You're going to have the Barbarian. So if you're already a Barb gang for life, well, guess what? You can continue on, no problem. Wizard is actually going to become a Sorcerer, is what's going to be called in Diablo 4. And Demon Hunter is not going to exist. So actually, Demon Hunter is going to get replaced by the Rogue class, which is very familiar to those who play Diablo 2, right? So it's going to be replaced by the Rogue class, and honestly, it's going to be very interesting because the Rogue is going to have a little bit of a crossover with the Demon Hunter, but not exactly. So we're going to have a lot of little nuances to change, especially myself, right? You guys all know that I'm a huge Demon Hunter type player, so Rogue is probably going to be the class I go with. Also, we're not going to have the monk class. You're going to have the druid class, which is going to be something different where you can kind of shape form. Like the druid really revolves more around shape shifting and transformation, so to speak. Even a little bit of summoning is really what a druid is, and it's also one of the best support classes out there. Now, there are other classes that we could kind of talk about and touch on very briefly, but when we really talk about the differences and like what we have going on and the differences between Diablo Immortal and Diablo 4, the key components that are going to be different are going to be the characters, the way the game is played. Like obviously doing bounties is going to be something you're going to have to do in Diablo 4. It's going to help you get set items and gear. You're going to get a lot more gear drops, so that may entice you more as a Diablo Immortal player to play Diablo 4. But also, there's going to be a lot more depth to the game. And for some people out there, depth is not necessarily something that they want. A lot of people have reached out and voiced to me that they love Diablo Immortal because for its simplicity. At the heart of it, Diablo Immortal is not a super complicated or convoluted game. It's pretty straightforward, right? Whereas Diablo 4, you're going to have to pay attention to a lot of things. Yellow gear is going to be essential because you're going to need to use it for crafting. And really, there's a lot of other aspects that are going to go into the game that are going to be very high level and very difficult to kind of understand at first. So you're going to have to really take things step by step in Diablo 4. Whereas in Diablo Immortal, you can kind of just run with it, and there's not too many awful mistakes you can make unless we're talking about gems, in which case these embedded gems here, yes, you can make a lot of mistakes on these with Diablo Immortal, but that's really about the only, I would say, the worst part about it, or the hardest difficult choice, right? But yes, overall, in general, there are going to be a lot of differences, and I do feel like a lot of players who are Diablo Immortal players will really like Diablo 4, especially when they actually dive into it and see the differences and see how built up of a game it really is and how well balanced it's going to be. Now, there will be some bugs here and there, I'm sure, and I will be live streaming the entire beta right from the beginning. I'm probably doing it on YouTube. I don't know about Twitch right now, but we'll probably be streaming right here on this channel during the beta, kind of get some more hours into the game, get some footage. So we can keep the website and get that updated for everybody who wants to know everything about Diablo 4. That's going to go ahead and we're going to wrap up this video now. And I wanted to kind of just get some differences thrown out there for those of you who play Diablo Immortal to kind of get you ready and prepared, some things to think about, so to speak, with the beta coming up for Diablo 4, as well as just to make sure, just to kind of touch base with you guys, let you guys know what I'm up to, let you guys know what I'm thinking. And yeah, can't wait to see you guys in the next one. Have a good rest of your day. Peace.